Today on Soul Work for Moms. What happens when a DIY and lifestyle blogger becomes a first-time mom to twins? Emily May of GoHouseGo.com is a married new mom to 10-month-old twins, Nixon and Teller. Besides running her blog, she's also a full-timer in the marketing world. Emily talks about the shock she and her husband experienced upon finding out they were having twins, what it was like going from a lifestyle of blogging, traveling, and working long hours to being a mother of two. You'll also hear about the pressure she felt to feel completely happy as a mother, and a key turning point for her in getting over the shock of what motherhood is really like. Then, things get a little emotional when Emily shares the personal growth she experienced from the premature birth of her boys. More with Emily right after this. I'm Michelle Duncan-Wilson, and last year I created a workshop for moms to get together and work through some of the things they were struggling with. The feedback from the workshop was great, but the thing I heard over and over again from the mothers was that they loved hearing all the other women who shared their struggles and strengths in mothering. I wanted to create an outlet for more of that, and the result is this podcast. Join me as I interview a different mother every week. You can listen in as women from all different backgrounds and stages in life share their experiences in motherhood. You'll also hear from expert guests who share their ideas on how to take the hard parts of mothering and use them to grow personally and spiritually. I call it Soul Work for Moms, Evolution Through Mothering. Welcome to the show. The main thing that I want to hear about is your experience of having twins, right? And being a lifestyle home DIY blogger. I'm sure that had to have just really thrown your whole world upside down in some sort of way. And I think a lot of people will be interested to hear about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it absolutely did in so many ways. It's like, and thinking about like even just knowing that I was going to talk with you, and they're about to turn one in in 2 months. So I've been reflecting on all of this stuff. And yeah, I mean, so much of how I define my own success and the things that make me feel good, it's very much tied up in, and it has been for a long time. It was always tied up. It was always tied up in the blog and the work that I did on our home and on other people's homes. And, the twins came, and all of a sudden it went from me being very productive on the blog. I was able to finish so many projects around the house, and that made me feel really good. So it went from, a 100-mile-per-hour process to 0 when the twins came, because my focus had to completely readjust and go to them. And that was hard. That was really hard for a long time because, again, the projects and the work that made me feel good. And here I had these twins who, were keeping me up all night, and, they were still young at that point. So we hadn't really, I'm not getting any smiles from them. They're fussy. So that was so hard at the very beginning. And then as time went on, and I think this is like probably right around the time where they started to sleep through the night, I had to, reframe a little bit how, about what makes me feel good. And, it started to become, yes, projects and blog stuff and being really successful there makes me feel good. But you know what? Being a good mom makes me feel good too. And that is not something that happened right away. Like, that took time, and that was very surprising to me as a new mom.
Yeah, I bet. And I'd love to hear the journey of becoming a mother from that, first day when you found out that there was a positive pregnancy test, or if that even is how that whole process happened.
Yeah.
So share that with us if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it started with a positive pregnancy test. We were actually in Seattle at the time. We didn't know it was twins at the time. We were on vacation, and I was feeling funny, like most moms do. And I took a test, and and I was pregnant. And when they told us it was twins, I remember that day in the doctor's office so clearly. There was there was no celebration. My husband and I, we were shocked. We just looked at each other and we knew, like, oh my gosh, this is going to change everything. And my husband and I, we're older, so we waited a little bit to have our babies. So, we had we had this lifestyle, we traveled, we worked long hours. And then when we got that news of that test, it was like, oh my gosh, we are about to have ourselves quite an adventure. And, as the months passed, that's when, of course you do all the preparation and the planning. And I think for me, there was almost this, of course I was so excited. I had been wanting to be a mom for such a long time. And I was so excited, that I was pregnant. And at the same time, I was also mourning the last few weeks of my old life. And I think I said that to my husband and to my friends a lot. Like, I feel like I'm in mourning because I can feel like my old life coming to an end. That old life that I'm really good at. And I'm about to start this new life where I have no experience and no practice and, will I be good at it? So there was a lot of anxiety, especially in those last couple weeks before the babies were born.
And that's something that I think about, that in our culture, we don't acknowledge that mourning. We, I think, expect women to seamlessly transition from this life of doing whatever it is that you want, whenever it is that you want, to having your entire life, for the most part, be devoted to the needs of these little babes.
Yeah.
And that can be, and usually is, a really big adjustment, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And I think that we don't talk about that enough. And I think, at least in my experience, and as I'm hearing from you, so then when that hits you, it's like, where did that come from? And it just hits you like a truck that, whoa, I wasn't really expecting this part of motherhood.
Oh my gosh. You've hit it on the head. I mean, I think the phrase that I said the most like those first couple months after the twins were born was like, why didn't anyone tell me it was going to be like this?
Yeah.
And, I really felt like I felt so much pressure those first couple of weeks to be, so happy with my new life. And, most days I was, but at the same time, I would say it was equal parts, sadness and anxiety and frustration over, am I doing this okay? Is everyone okay? And it really made me feel like, that pressure of of course you must be happy, you've had babies. That pressure of feeling that happiness kind of made me feel like I'm the only one that's feeling this way. I'm the only one that's struggling with this. And the turning point for me happened when I had a really good friend come over a couple of weeks in. And, this is someone that I could tell really anything to. And I said to her, I don't really like this. Is that okay? And she looks at me and she said, no one likes this face. She's like, are you kidding me? She's like, you're not sleeping. They're sleeping. You feel like you can't really connect with them other than feeding them. It's okay. That is something that's totally normal. She was like, oh, I hated the baby face. And, just hearing someone else say that, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, that made a huge difference because I felt like, oh, what I'm feeling might be normal. I'm not a weirdo that isn't just over the moon excited about, being, a mom to two little babies.
Right. What was your experience of family like as a child?
I mean, it was a perfect, a picture perfect family. My parents are still married. I had a great childhood growing up in a small town. I have a little sister. So I mean, it was very traditional in that sense.
And you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but did you always know you wanted to be a mom, or was that something that came later in life?
I always knew. And I remember in my mind, I had this age of, I'm going to have a baby when I'm 24 years old. That was like the age that I had in my mind. And probably like when I turned 18, I had this like countdown, like only 5 more years, only 4 more years. And I would say that to myself every birthday, like I'm getting closer. Like little did I know it would be like, I wouldn't have kids until I was 29, but yeah, I always wanted to have kids.
Because I don't have twins, and this is probably getting annoying for you already with the twins. How old are the twins? 10 months old?
They're 10 months old.
Okay. So what does a day in the life of mothering twins look like for you?
Oh my gosh. So we're in the winter, right? And they're at that age where they're just kind of sick all the time. It's their first winter. They were premature, so their immune systems are not what they should be. But luckily, I mean, we haven't had any scares, and they're fine in that regards. But so I say that because Nixon, one of my little guys, he is pretty much sleeping in the bed with us at this point because he's sick, he doesn't feel good, and he wants his mom and dad. So he's been sleeping with us. So he gets us up probably around 5:30 or 6. So I get up with him, and then his brother Teller wakes up probably around 7. And from 7 in the morning till 7, 8 o'clock at night is me. With the babies, with help from my husband, of course. So, it's a lot of, with twins, it's a lot of when one is content, usually the other one isn't. When they're both content at the same time, I mean, I feel like I'm at the top of my world. Like, I am such a good mom. Look, they're so happy at the same time. But we baby wear a lot just because I often need to wrangle one while, trying to soothe another. So, I mean, just picture me all day with babies all over me. And we're in that stage now where they're crawling and they're more mobile, and they want to be even more mobile, so they can get a little frustrated sometimes. So I've become like the queen of distractions. Like, what can I hand you that will distract your attention just a little bit?
Now, I want to go back to you mentioning that they were premature.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine, I did not have that experience with any of my 3 children. On the Soul Work for Moms podcast, it's about growing through motherhood. How was that experience for you? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So they were born at 33 weeks in 3 days. So as far as preemie standards go, it isn't dire. It wasn't a dire situation. When babies are born around that time, they did great with their breathing. They more just had an issue with, I'm forgetting the name of it now. I think I've blocked it from my memory. Their bilirubin levels. So the jaundice thing. So they were working through that. And then the biggest thing is babies in utero, they learn to eat at 35 weeks. So when babies are born before 35 weeks, they haven't developed that swallow reflex, so they're really not able to take their feeds. So really a lot of our time in the NICU, we spent 3 weeks in the NICU, was getting their jaundice levels down and really working on getting them to feed, to drink from a bottle. So that was like our biggest thing. And
did you expect that when you were pregnant with twins? Did people tell you, were you warned that probably would be the experience, or was that a shock for you?
I had been preparing myself for that for a long time. I had done so much research, and I'm on this big, national Facebook group for twin moms or twin parents. From what I could see, it seemed like, looking at those moms and what they were saying, it seemed like lots and lots of twins are born around 32 and 33 weeks. So I was really prepared for that. I felt like, okay, I'm going to be doing bed rest in some way, shape, or form. They're going to come early in some way, shape, or form. I just didn't exactly know what it was going to look like. I went into preterm labor at 31 weeks, and I was in the hospital for 2.5, and then I finally had my babies 2.5 weeks later. So that whole experience, and as far as, me growing, I think that was a crash course in and what it feels like to be a mom. I mean, just the feeling of having to leave your babies. Oh, I'm going to cry. Of having to leave them there. It's just so hard.
And what got you through that time, would you say?
I think it was a lot of things. I think, the first thing that comes to my mind is my husband. He was so supportive, and he was there for them as much as I was. And our parents, of course, they were with us every step of the way. And I look back at that time, and, they weren't in any distress, or they weren't at really risk for anything. They weren't really sick. They just had to learn to eat. And the people that really calmed me the most, I would say, are the nurses in the NICU, because they were able to say, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing this. It looks scary because of this reason, but we're going to tell you why it's not really that scary. The cords, for example. So they're like covered in cords and tubing, and, they'll go through each one. Like, here's why Nixon has this one on today. And it looks kind of scary, but it's just keeping a read on his oxygen levels. It's not hurting him in any way. So just having like that knowledge, that was something that really helped me through it, for sure.
Mothering just cracks your heart open, right? In ways that we just really never even had anticipated. And you also find a strength, I think, that you didn't know that you had. Would you say that was true for you going through this experience?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't exactly describe myself as like cold-hearted, but I'm certainly not one to get emotional a lot of times. And of course, even look at us right now. Here I am, being a mom now, and, there's certain things that when talking about my kids, my heart is just so raw about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mothering brings so much to our lives. It brings incredible joy, but it also brings a lot of difficulty and sometimes pain. Doing soul work means taking a look at the personal difficulties you're having and asking yourself, how is this situation here for me so that I can grow? Hearing what other moms go through can be validating, and it can open your eyes to new perspectives, but I also hope it sparks a desire in you to hear the call from deep inside, showing you what is asking to be worked through right now. You don't have to get overwhelmed with a laundry list of things. Just see what rises to the top right now, asking you to take a deeper look. From there, you can also talk to your innate intelligence and ask, what is the next step necessary? It may be getting a book, it may be having a conversation with someone, it may be sending an email to a specialist to ask about working with you. You have the next step right inside of you, waiting to be heard. And I'm here to encourage you to listen to it, because it's only by listening to this voice and acting on its intelligence that you will grow into your full potential.
All right, so we're going to bring this around to some more of the positive stories that you've had in the last 10 months. What has been the just most joyous part of your last 10 months with Nixon and Teller? Which, by the way, those are incredibly cute names. I
Oh,
love
thanks. Thanks. Gosh, there's been so many things. I mean, the coolest thing and the most fun thing has just been to see them really develop and hit those milestones. I mean, even just because they were born early, you always worry, like, are they going to be okay? Are they going to crawl when they're supposed to? Are they going to be able to feed themselves like they're supposed to? And just seeing them hit those milestones and just be these little mighty mini kids has been so cool. So that has been a big thing. And then the other thing that I would say, the thing that's been most fun has really just been being able to share them with others.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that sounds strange, but they're the first grandbabies for my parents. So that's been awesome. Like, they're just so excited, and it's just been so cool to see that. And we just get so excited. They live about an hour and a half north of us, but we get so excited when they're able to come. And same with Aaron's parents, just being able to share them with others. And it's like, even strangers, like being at the grocery store, like, I act that it bothers me that people are always like, oh, twins, can I see? And, we're kind of like a walking circus at the store, but it is so fun to just see people's excitement. So just sharing them with others has been really fun and something that I didn't even really expect. So that's been really nice.
Yeah, I bet. I know every time I see little babies, I'm drawn to them in the store. And then if there's twins, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Of course, I have to go and just soak up all their goodness.
Yeah. And my they don't, so they're twins, they're fraternal, and they really do not look anything alike, which is so funny. One looks just like me, and then one looks like my husband, Aaron. And we get those questions all the time, like, are they both yours? Are they twins? Which one's older? So
this
fun.
could be a good education for those of us that don't have twins. Have you found there's any things or questions or things that people do, maybe with good intentions, but are just super annoying?
Oh, man. I think people have such good intentions. It's hard to be annoyed by it. I mean, my biggest thing is, like, don't touch them. So
yeah, and that's true no matter how many children you have, right?
Right. It's like, you could have 1 or 5. Like, please don't touch my baby. So I get a lot of that, like, especially at the grocery store. Like, little grandmas would want to come up and, like, like, oh, let me pat your cheek.
Yeah.
So that's not cool. Like, that really bothers me. We've really had, like, good experiences. We had one guy at Target one time that was like, oh man, twins, you've got quite a challenge. And he's like, don't you know that parents of twins have a higher rate of divorce?
Oh my gosh.
And he said it as like, I'm going to impart this wisdom upon you. And I'm like, do you hear what you're saying? That's horrible.
Another favorite question of mine to ask mothers, especially newer mothers, if you had 3 or 4 hours to yourself right after this interview, how would you decide to spend it?
Oh my gosh. 3 or 4. I would probably paint a room in my house.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Uninterrupted. I would have, like, NPR's This American Life playing in the background. I'd probably have, like, maybe a beer, like a little glass of wine, and I would just go crazy and paint a room.
Then that leads into the next question. Besides your family, your little guys, your husband, your extended family, what is one thing that you just could not live without?
Oh, I think it would be my blog.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why. It's a beautiful blog.
Oh, thanks.
If you have not had the chance to take a look at it, go right after this interview and check it out. Your taste is amazing. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
So tell me about your blog and what that does for you.
Sure. And it's not even the blog in and of itself. What I couldn't live without is being able to work on my passions. The blog has always been a creative outlet for me. I have a job in the corporate world, and there's some creativity that happens there, but it's nothing compared to the thoughts that I have in my mind around, my house and design and crafting and all of that stuff. And I absolutely need that outlet to be a healthy, happy person.
Yeah.
So I really couldn't live without it. It is, when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, I almost always feel better if I'm able to get a post up, if I'm able to complete a project. That almost always makes me feel better. Especially now because, not having a lot of time, it's become this fun challenge of, I want to spend the days with my kids. I don't want to take that time away from him. And I've had to get so creative in terms of when I can find that, that special treat for me, and whether that's painting or, whatever it may be, I just really could not live without that.
Time to yourself is what I'm hearing a lot of too, and
Yes.
feeling like you're making a contribution, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of emotional topics already today, and this question, you may have already answered it, but how would you say that motherhood has changed you so far?
Yeah. Oh man. It's changed me in so many ways. Selflessness, I think for me is like the biggest thing for motherhood. And it's like, I never thought really, I would have never described myself as a selfish person before I had kids. But when, the babies came into our life, I really had to think like, am I a selfish person? Because babies really force you to, set your needs aside, set what you'd like to do aside or any planning and really focus on them. And, it was hard at first, but now that I've I don't want to say mastered because it's always a work in progress, but now that I've improved, it's been so rewarding. I can be content with my kids all day long, playing on the floor, doing absolutely nothing other than focusing on them, and I can be content and happy doing that. So that's one big way. It's also forced me to slow down a lot. I am that person with the, eternal to-do list. I don't like sitting down. I don't like watching TV. I like to get things done. And having kids has really forced me to slow down and take all of that in and just have those experiences with them.
Yeah. What is something that people might be surprised to find out about you?
Oh, I mean, I'm kind of a private person, so I feel like a lot of things could go on that list.
Well, that right there actually surprises me that you say that you're a private person, because I think that when I imagine bloggers, I haven't thought about this until now, but I automatically have just assumed that people who have blogs are pretty, put it all out there type of personalities. So that's not true for you, huh?
It's not really. And I always say I'm an introvert trapped in an extrovert's body. And on the blog and even the stuff that I write about, it's not really very personal. It's, what I'm doing in the house at that time. I don't really even talk about the babies that much. I just try to keep it focused on house stuff. I don't know, I don't know why I'm so private, but I am. And I'm starting to work on that, because I do feel like I need to be more open and be more vulnerable. So as far as what would people be surprised to find out? Well, one thing that happened that was really exciting that I haven't really told anyone is I was screen tested by a TV production company recently. They're looking for someone to build a TV show around.
Whoa! That's exciting. And was that, I'm assuming, through the blog?
Yeah. They found me through the blog. So, I mean, that's not really anything that who knows what would come out of it. So that's probably something people would be surprised to know.
Wow, that's exciting. And was that process, you've already had gone through that process?
Yes. Yeah.
And was that what was that like? Was that nerve-wracking?
Oh, it's so nerve-wracking. I mean, you're on camera. answering these questions. Yeah, it's very, very nerve-wracking. And that day I had just recovered from a horrible stomach bug. So I'm like nauseous in like full hair and makeup trying to give this interview. It was horrible.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the moms who are looking at your beautiful blog and looking at these just beautiful rooms, so well put together. What do you have to say to any of the moms that just feel like, oh man, I do not have my stuff together? It does not look like that. I mean, what does your house always look like that?
Oh man, no, it rarely looks like that.
Okay.
It rarely looks like that. And you know, it's so funny that you said that because I too, I get frustrated too when all I see is pretty stuff, and I realize that I am absolutely a contributor to that. And what I would say is it's not real. It's just curated for social media to look cool. It's not real.
And to provide inspiration, certainly.
Yeah, it's to provide inspiration. And, you know, there's a mom that I follow on Instagram, and she is so real. And she posts her struggles, she posts her triumphs when it comes to her kid. And she has been so inspiring to me because one, it helps me feel like, you know, we're all in this together. We're all in this really challenging time of our lives trying to figure it out and survive and raise these awesome kids. So I've been trying to be more like her, to be, you know, very transparent about what my life is like. And so I've been trying to post more of that.
So just a few questions left. Who are one or two women that you may or may not know personally who you find to be inspiring?
Yeah. So yeah, the one would be the one that I mentioned, and I don't even know her in real life. She's a mom in Cincinnati. She has twin boys, which is why I gravitated towards her, and then two other kids. She's just so inspiring. She seems to really show the ups and downs of motherhood, and she seems like she's such a good mom, and she's so transparent about, you know, again, her struggles, you know, as well as some of the things that she's accomplished with them. So I just love that. That's been so inspiring to me. It makes me feel like, you know, it's okay to not love being a mother 100% of the time.
Yeah.
There's going to be some nights and days where it's hard, and that's okay. That's normal. You know, everyone's going through that.
I know that you're 10 months in, more if you count the pregnancy, but right now, what is something that you hope that your children will grow up to know?
One of the biggest things would be them being their own person. I worry about them being twins. You know, will they always identify themselves by comparing themselves to one another? So I worry about that, and then you know, just, you know, with friends and conformity versus individuality. I just want them to really be so confident in who they are as a person, and be content with the fact that that might not be the same as everyone else. I think that would be the biggest thing. You know, I really want them to feel comfortable to be their own people.
And the last question, what is one thing that you want all mothers to know?
The biggest thing that I want all mothers to really know and to have in the back of their minds is that what you're feeling, especially as a new mom, it's so normal. There will be highs and lows, and the highs are wonderful, and the lows are so unnerving and frustrating. It's okay to experience that and to share that with others. And I would also encourage people, including myself, I need to listen to my own advice, is to really share your true real life with people. I think we have such a journey to make in terms of helping new moms especially realize and understand that it's a challenge and it's hard, but it's okay, and we're all experiencing the same thing.
Thanks so much to Emily May. You can find links to Emily's blog, Go House Go, in the show notes page, and that's where you'll also find the link to that Instagram mom that Emily finds so inspiring. While you're there, be sure to download today's free soul worksheet that goes along with today's episode. And today's soul work action step is to see if you can share openly in a situation you might normally stay quiet. It doesn't have to be anything major, but just start to see how it feels. I'll be back next week with a guest you won't want to miss, Pixie Lighthorse, founder of Soul Lodge. If you don't know Pixie yet, you're going to love hearing her speak about mothering as a rite of passage. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, and you'll be notified every time a new episode goes live. I'll end today by reminding you that you matter so much. When you have the courage to do your soul work, you change not only your future, but the future of the world. And that's evolution through mothering. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.